What do you want to do here today?
Well, I mean, a lot has happened over the last, what's it been? It's been a while.
Back in the before time.
There's been a pay-per-view, there's been TV shows, people have said stupid things, lots of other stupid things. So, I mean, there's lots going on. I guess, chronologically, we should start with the AEW pay-per-view World's End, which took place last year.
And you know what? It may have been better for him if it had.
What, if the world had ended?
Yes.
Come on.
Well, then we would have been saved the TV show they did on the first day of the new year. I think they should have pulled a Costanza. They should have tried to do something to go out on a high point and then pray that the world ended before they had to do anything else again. But they didn't.
They were in Orlando, Florida, I believe.
Yeah.
To end that's typically where people think of the end of the world begins. Orlando, Florida.
If it's not the end of the world, you can see it from there. I'm trying to, yes, I have my notes here now. Orlando in a, quote, jam-packed arena. That's what the commentator, not the fancy twice-baked tater, but the commentator said, old Sockface. They were in a jam-packed arena. As long as the camera could see the seat, it was packed.
Someone wrote to us. They said, did he have a stroke? Because he's having trouble just completing sentences or thoughts. He starts trying to say something and he loses his train of thought.
You know what he's got now? Is he's got, what do they call it? We're talking about Excalibur, folks. The guy with the fucking nylon panties on his head.
The guy who would be the worst commentator in wrestling if he wasn't sitting next to Tony Schiavone.
Well, but now, depending on how you define commentator, you still got Officer Bar Brady to deal with back there. He's back on the show in force. But nevertheless, what do they call the thing when gymnasts start second-guessing themselves and their heads can't process or control where they are in the air? You know what and they start making mistakes. Lucha Libre. No. They can't process where they are on the ground either. I think old Sockface has that now. I think he's realized that he's said all of his shit that he can say about the tornillos and the, whatever the fuck fancy moves names. And he's doing the same shit over and over again. And he's trying to figure out some way to be a real announcer Pinocchio. And it ain't coming across, and he's got the jimmies or whatever, the Jimmy legs. But anyway, back to this pay-per-view in the jam-packed arena. God, I know this is going to happen in the next week, but if I see another tournament ever on this television or any of their associated programming, it will be too soon. What the... Can I just, before we start talking about the first match was Ospreay and Fletcher. In the tournament, can I set the tournament up? We would be remiss in our standards as professional broadcasters if we didn't, for our audience who didn't pay attention to this tomfoolery, recap how these semifinal and final matches came together on this pay-per-view. So just so the people know, right?
Right.
You're with me.
I didn't think that I thought it was an implied right.
Well, I had to breathe because I'm a COVID survivor, goddammit.
I thought it was an implied breath.
I'm going to start a fucking GoFundMe. So I don't want to take it upon myself as a mere novice in these Blue League and Gold League and B Block and A Block and H&R Block tournaments. I'm a novice. I want to go to a professional to explain to us, Brian Last, how these semifinal and final tournament matches came to be on this pay-per-view. I'm going to Uncle Dave.
Oh, okay.
This was written in the Wrestling Observer. Guy sent me this copy, but I don't know what. I guess it was the Observer that covered the Dynamite and Rampage tapings in New York's Hammerstein Ballroom. Because the way that Uncle Dave describes it as the show that they taped that night was built around setting up the Continental Classic semifinals. The booking came together strongly on the last show as every match had meaning. Are you ready to hear the meaning in the Gold League, Brian?
Please.
Well, when Will Ospreay lost to Ricochet, it seemed impossible for him to make it because he had to beat Brody King to finish with 9 points, and everyone figured Claudio Castagnoli would beat Commander and be at 12. If Ricochet beat Darby Allin, he'd be at 12, and they would be the 2 to go. If Allin beat Ricochet, Ricochet and Ospreay would tie at 9, and Allin would have beaten Ricochet and Ospreay, so he'd go with Castagnoli. King would have 9 with a win and would have a tiebreaker over Allin, but not over Castagnoli or Ricochet. But Castagnoli lost, and Ricochet drew Allin. That put Ricochet in, and Castagnoli and Ospreay tied for second, but Ospreay won their match to advance. Got it?
I have no idea. No, I do not have it.
Well, then you gotta learn, baby. Learn, baby, learn. Meltzer Inferno. Learn, baby, learn. Inferno, mother day. So now the Blue League. Don't be back there cackling. Share it with the whole class. The Blue League now, this is an interesting case. This is clear cut right here, straight down the middle. The Blue League saw everyone but Beast Mortos still alive going into the last day. Services for him apparently will be taking place this weekend. Okada had 7 points and Benjamin had 6 going into their match. The winner would likely go to the Final Four. Kyle Fletcher had 9 points, Daniel Garcia had 7, and Mark Briscoe was in the clubhouse with 9. An Okada versus Benjamin draw would put Briscoe in the playoffs. Benjamin would die Briscoe. I think that means tie. I don't think they're suggesting any kind of homicide. Benjamin would tie Briscoe with a win, but beat him head-to-head, so he'd likely be in. Okada beating Benjamin put him at 10. Had Garcia beat Fletcher, Okada and Garcia would be tied, and they had a draw. It was said since they both made it, there would be a coin flip of who faces Ospreay and who faces Ricochet. If Fletcher won, that gave him 12 and Okada 10. A draw was all Fletcher needed because he'd have 10, as would Okada, and he'd finish first based on the head-to-head win. It's as plain as the nose on your fucking face.
The booking all came together. That's where you started.
So that's what they're trying to sell the people in fucking Cleveland.
You brought up before the idea you don't want to see another tournament. The Owen Hart usually starts, what, in the spring?
Oh, God.
Right? I mean, that's the annual spring thing, and then this is it. And then I think there's other ones randomly throughout the year. This is clearly something Tony Khan loves. I'm sure he spends lots of times and lots of pads figuring out the outcomes and the points. Dave loves it too. I don't think it connects to the regular fan.
I don't think it connects to the regular human brain. But anyway, so we had Ospreay and Fletcher that have taken the path that we have just described to you, ladies and gentlemen. And, you know, all of the top AEW talent, Will here and old Kyle here, they're all MDs. You know that, Brian. They got their degrees. They're MDs. Move doers. And again, for the kind of people who like that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing those people like. But they can't contain themselves. Because for the only audience that these guys care about getting over to, this is what they want. But a billionaire is spending money on these people to do more than lose ratings and lose interest because it's all the same goddamn shit. They think they're in a video game and they're going to base that on everything they do. And they're trying to make Kyle, as we said, 18 months in an OVW or a small regional territory, if something like that existed. I'm not talking about today's OVW. I'm talking about in the day. You know, you could develop him or NXT possibly. But no, you ain't gonna get, he's bald. He looks years older because he did look 14, but he also looks miles more boring. It ain't all together yet. They're doing it out. They're doing the rehearsals in front of the fucking audience on opening night. And they started 100 miles an hour with a choreographed routine. And they have no reactions to what is happening because they're facially so intent on nailing the next flip and ducking the next fucking swing your partner do-si-do. And it's either by the numbers memorized swing dancing or everything that they do individually looks fake. So they do a bunch more of them thinking that that will make it better. They'd go on the floor forever and the referee gawks. The camera stayed off of Ospreay for so long so he could get his color that I thought they'd forgotten he was there. And then Fletcher now is a blood licker. Did you see the blood licking, Brian, off of his boots and everything?
Yeah, I saw it. I hate whenever they do anything like that, drinking blood or licking their hands covered in blood. I'm not a fan of that.
I mean, again, if it was Abdullah the Butcher that came to your town once a fucking year doing it, oh my God, but it's like but at least he wasn't drinking it out of a water fountain like old who's-he what's-he was, a Swerve. But anyway, but this is what they do. Ospreay they'll get some heat on him and then he'll make a big comeback with his flips, and then Kyle will suplex him on his head, so Ospreay will just stand up and grab Kyle and do a backflip with him, and then they'll both lay there. Okay, go up and hit somebody in the head with a baseball bat and knock them down and let them pop right back up and then give you a uranagi, and then they'll realize that their brains are melting down the back of their shoulder blade. They traded chops while daring the other guy to give them chops, and then they flipped back and forth some more. I wrote down while they're not selling, but then they both sell the guy that got hit and the guy that hit the guy that got hit. And I guess that's to prove that they do sell, whether it makes any sense or not. And then they did a headbutt exchange where they both got on their knees and they traded headbutts over and over, not working headbutts, not using their hand, but just headbutting each other. But it was both fake and real. They were hard enough to hurt, but obviously being pulled to try not to hurt too bad. So was that worth the fucking potential hematoma, Brian, when you're trying to do something that you think will convince people that it's somehow real when you can still tell it's not, but you're really hurting yourself? Help me.
No, I don't think it's a good idea, and I think it's something that even hardcore wrestling AEW fans probably are uncomfortable with. Again, Shibata had to have his brain removed, according to the Wrestling Observer, after the headbutt spot.
Yeah.
It was that spot.
And it doesn't even make me uncomfortable because I don't care about either of these guys, whether they do brain damage themselves, but it makes me uncomfortable as a professional to see people do stupid, phony shit that also hurts. So there's that. And then Ospreay kicked out of a brain buster and a power bomb and a lot of leg slaps, and immediately jumped up and grabbed the fucking guy that had just done all those things, old Kyle Fletcher, and fucking picked him up and gave him a Styles Clash 1, 2, 3. I've never seen he brain busted Ospreay, and he power bombed him, and he kicked and slapped that leg a couple of times, and Ospreay just like, oh, fuck it. Styles Clash 1, 2, 3.
That is something you see a lot in modern wrestling. The idea, I mean, the selling's an issue everywhere, but someone gets killed with a bunch of stuff and all of a sudden they have a burst of energy and they jump up and do something ridiculous. In this case, it was the finish with someone else's finish. The Styles Clash.
Well, yeah, and again, I know that,
Why not the Tiger Driver? He was so afraid to use it and then he used it. Why not use it against the guy you were afraid that he knows where your kids go to school and everything?
Well, maybe he's still afraid because he knows where his kids go to. I don't know, but I know that Pockets, the mascot, does the stunner, and and that just reminds people of Austin. But and now Owens, and Austin and Owens have the connection where he doesn't mind it. He used it, so whatever. But he's a joke. But if this guy's gonna be fucking a legitimate top guy. Why is he using another guy's fucking finish? Again, the joke, the mascot does the Roman Reigns' too. He does everybody. It's the fucking rib. But not a serious guy. Anyway, and not in a non-serious way. So
you didn't like that match at all?
Match.
You didn't like it at all?
Well, how can they're, again, I've said they're both great athletes and they can do wonderful shit that if it was produced, if they had been taught by anybody that knew what the fuck they were doing before they figured that they fucking knew everything that they needed to know, if that makes sense to you, then yes, both and Ospreay. He's amazing. He can sell and make the comeback with the I sound like Pat Patterson now. But not when it's just a video game nonsense match over and over, and it looks like everybody else is just executed better, but nothing is over because the individual moves aren't over. The fucking no, you cannot prostitute the idea of doing any of these things, picking a guy up and dropping him right on his fucking head for a 2 count. And then the guy pops up a second later and does something. You cannot prostitute the entire business just to let these guys live out their fantasies of being Olympic level gymnasts and of some kind of action video game. They could both be taught and produced and developed to be good wrestlers, but in left to their own devices, they do this mark fucking bullshit. And there you have it. Sorry.
Well, let me ask it this way, too. The fans there really seemed into this more than anything else on the show. And they had an opening match, and we know how things work there. These guys did everything they wanted to do. There wasn't an agent saying, hey, hold back a little bit. They went a while. They did everything they wanted to do. The fans were into it. The fans didn't react to shit the rest of the night.
Exactly, because you don't put the goddamn second coming of Jesus Christ on first and then end up the show with the fucking, what do you want to have for the Last Supper?
I mean, like Brett versus Owen opened the show and was an amazing match, but they didn't do everything. You know, they didn't kick out of everything.
No, and then it was Wrestle fucking Mania, and there was still some things to do.
Should WWE have their eyes on when Kyle Fletcher's contract comes up? Based on his size, his age, and, you know, what he can do? Well,
the only thing is, yes to all of those things, but I don't know what kind. Is he one of these knuckleheads like Ricochet that obviously just wants to play in traffic? Or is he a guy that's coachable and teachable and can adapt to working with the professionals? That's the only thing I don't know because I've never met the guy. I haven't heard anything about it. I'm sure he's a wonderful fellow, but does he understand that he's on an indie level kind of path now and he would need to have the input of real professionals? So, but yeah, no, they both can do all kinds of shit. That's not the problem. The problem is they do all this shit and the people like it. Yes, because it's crazy in the building in front of them. And then what's going to follow it? Number one, so they've shit on everybody else on the card. And number two, what can you, again, they're pouring bleach down people's throats and they're throwing them off balconies through furniture and there's a flamethrower on the fucking guy, right? And nobody still cares. Nobody believes any of it, even when the guy's really on fucking fire. It's just bullshit to these fans. Yay! But that's why they're tuning out, because how many more motherfuckers can you set on fire? They've seen it. You need Agent Orange now where the skin will melt off. That's why things don't get over, because none of these personalities are over or their reasons for interacting, a la Seth Rollins and CM Punk, or any story that the WWE has going today practically, where people care about the people involved and why they're treating each other that way, so they don't have to fucking amputate limbs. They've got the pile driver over again. These stupid motherfuckers are kicking out of leaping tombstone pile drivers on fucking stairs because they're idiots and they're marks for themselves. And the billionaire that's paying them more money than most of them are worth is a mark for that shit too. And that's why that He's spending all his fucking money to fucking do this instead of create any type of serious fucking competition.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but part of the issue, like I said before, the wrestlers decide what they're going to do in the ring. There's no agent overruling anyone. Tony's not going to do it. And part of the reason for all this is Tony's in the back, listening to his favorite songs from the 80s, trying to find songs that will fit in different places in the AEW universe with his Raycon earbuds.
Well, you know, that's a thing that I almost forgot about. Well, it's been so long since we did one of these fun, but it's been a year, Brian. I almost forgot that we could mention some of our friends on the program as well in this type of thing. And our friends at Raycon are friends of ours, and therefore they're friends of yours. They're forever friends. And, you know, that's why. Now that I think about it, Tony's back there. He's watching the monitor. He sees what's going on, but he doesn't realize that it doesn't make sense because he's listening to, let's say, the Pointer Sisters on his Raycon everyday wireless earbuds. But folks, you don't have to just listen to tired 80s music. No, you can go for the classics, the Zeppelin, the Stones, or you can go for the modern day stuff with the ditties and the daddies. I don't know who these modern people are.
Let's not go for them. Let's also not put down the Pointer Sisters as being tired 80s things. What the hell is that?
As far as for a wrestling application, it certainly is, but we'll get to that when we talk about Dynamite. But folks, you can even listen to us on your Raycon everyday earbuds. They're the perfect gym buddy. Let's say you're in, I'm not talking about me, Jim.
Oh, you got a new buddy, I hear.
Well, it's one of those bouncy buddies. But no, it's the gym, GYM, where the gymnasium, where you go to work out. You're going to listen to something while you're sweating to the oldies, sweating to the newbies. Sweating makes the world go round. Or let's say you want to tune out a coworker. Just put these things in your ear. They're so small and they're wireless. Most nearsighted people won't even notice them. You can just nod and smile and you can listen to whatever you want to listen to. Or let's say you want to talk on the phone. Well, you can talk into your phone, but you can hear them on your Raycons, can't you? And if you're on a three-way call, well, you can hear one son of a gun on the left or one son of a gun on the right, and you can just drop out of the middle of the conversation and let them fight it out. Because they've got active multi-point connectivity where you can pair these two suckers up and then let them go at it while you stand back and watch the carnage. And they come with active noise cancellation. So if the profanity gets too much, you can just, boom, cancel that noise right now. As a matter of fact, when you're talking to somebody and you activate the active noise cancellation, boom, a recording comes up to say, You've been canceled for your noise, motherfucker.
Again, that does not happen. Again, these are features that are actually part of Raycon, but these are not applications or ways to use it that Jim has no idea. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, you mean to say when you cancel somebody's noise, you don't even have the courtesy to tell them about it?
I don't know. Again, it's noise canceling, but I don't know if that's exactly how it's applied. So it's a feature.
Well,
it's certainly a feature they have, the fine Raycon earbuds.
Yes, well, you want to talk about features. They start at just half the price of the other premium audio brands, but they sound just as good, and they come in a variety of vibrant colors. So you can match your style, or you can match your skin tone, or, you know, I like the checkerboard. Really, a lot of people come up and try to do a double jump and get me to king them. But right now, if you want to go to buyraycon.com, that's BUYRAYCON.com/JCE, you can get 15% off site-wide of everything you buy there. And as we've said, let's say you buy 10 pair, that's 150% off. That means that they're going to pay you half just to take them. It's amazing what you can do with this new math. So if you think 2025 is going to suck, folks,
we're using the old math, ladies and gentlemen.
It hadn't come in yet to use the new math.
No, new math is not a thing yet. No.
Oh, well, okay. Well, using the old math, you're still going to get 15% off. So 2025 is going to suck. We know that already. So just don't listen to it. Listen to what you want to listen to on your Raycon everyday wireless earbuds. 15% off at buyraycon.com/JCE.
That's right. Raycon. A friend of ours, they could be friends of yours. And speaking of friends, nobody loves friends more than Tony Khan. And it was a gathering of the friends at AEW's World's End.
Well, another tournament match followed the first tournament match, and I don't know if it followed it, but it came afterwards. Let's put it that way. See, folks, I would have been killer on the Borscht Belt. In the 50s, doing all the clubs in the Poconos. Ricochet.
The Catskills.
The Catskills. I want to work it out on the road first and then go to the Catskills. Another tournament match, Ricochet and our friend Okada. Because I can't even have any fun with this fucking broken down shell of a man by giving him a nickname anymore. Please, can't somebody put him in a chair and wheel him the fuck out? Jeez, so Ricochet was a big baby face. He came in with great fanfare, and from what we were led to believe is millions of dollars of commitment on Tony Khan's part from the WWE to debut, and they loved him. And has he been there 3 months? And he managed to somehow go from being a fucking raving babyface that everybody was saying was the savior of the company to, we don't really like this guy. Boy, this guy's turned out to be a fucking nerd.
Well, did you see? There was footage at the Hammerstein. I think that was one of the shows that aired during our break. I think it was him against Ospreay, and the fans, instead of streamers, were throwing toilet paper at him.
Well, yes, and then they actually did something on one of the TV tapings that they did, on this pay-per-view here. What am I thinking about? It's on this coming up. See, my mind. I'm a COVID survivor, goddammit. That started in Ring of Honor back in the late 2000s in Manhattan Center in the Hammerstein Ballroom, where for the big title matches, they would throw streamers, right? Like they did in Japan. And it was a cool visual in that building, and everybody, you've seen it. They throw the streamers, blah, blah, blah.
They were doing it before then, though, for the record.
Who was doing it before then?
Ring of Honor. They were doing it before the Manhattan Center in, 2009 or anything.
Okay, but what I'm saying to you is in that particular building. I'm not saying they invented the concept in the whole fucking universe. Right. I'm saying in that building, they were throwing the streamers, and I can't remember who it was, what heel it was, so I'd be happy to be, informed. But to be wise asses, the New York fans, instead of throwing streamers at them, they threw toilet paper. Like, you are the shit. So that's what the people were doing there, was they remembered from doing that years ago. That is not a thing that just happened. A lot of people may have seen it for the first time from their reaction. But then, that's what I'm saying, is bad enough when the fans do it, but the fans, then they actually make it part of the show where they can't help but being cheesy, can they? Is what I'm saying to you.
So you're against the idea of embracing it?
Well, I think it's great when the fans do it, but when you've got the guys out there copying you've got a top babyface copying something the fans just did, what organically, as the kids say, I think that looks cheesy, is what I'm saying to you. If he'd have thought of it, or if he'd have thunk of it first, is what I'm saying. But when the fans have already done it, and now here comes Swerve stealing other people's material. I don't know, but that's the point I'm making. Also, Ricochet went from second coming to, can you please be going? Now the people hate him. He's a douchebag. His real personality is apparently showing through on Twitter. So now they've just not only made him a heel, but a nerd or a geek type that gets pushed around and or made fun of and or whatever. Has there ever been somebody that was, probably in this company, you can quote me 3 or 4 that started out so popular and got so fucking unpopular so quick, but maybe Mercedes, or even then. They still haven't thrown toilet paper at her.
Yeah, I think she almost has a slight recovery just because at least they like her matches. But with Ricochet, it's not that long ago where WWE at the end of his contract was giving him a push. And he was involved in that program with Braun Breaker on Raw. And it was the best stuff he ever did in WWE. And it was kind of, I guess, potentially a sample of how they would treat him going forward. And then he went to AEW, came in with a bunch of fanfare, got the big reaction the first night in. And now the fans are sick of him.
And the fans are throwing toilet paper at him, and one of the baby faces is wiping his ass with it and throwing it on top of him. So anyway, we got to get there first, folks, because Okada, seriously, help me. He looks like facially like he ought to be working in the accounting department and moves like he should be in a body cast. And he actually jumped up and tried to do a few things over the course of this night, but the announcers have to put him over like he's this, world-beating, incredible fucking athlete and wrestler, and what people are seeing doesn't fit. And they're wondering why the people don't give a shit besides people who already knew who the fuck he was. And nobody else. Because if you've just seen this, what the fuck? And again, Ricochet and Okada now, who's the heel here? Okada was in the top heel group, the Lollipop Guild, with the Buckaroos until the last we saw of them on camera was they ran in fear out of the building, and that was it. So now this guy can't talk. He can't work. He looks like shit. He's got no angle going, but he beats every fucking body. The crowd was cheering him here because Ricochet is a bigger dick. But it was a glacial pace compared to the first match because there's no way that Okada could do anything like any Ricochet, Ospreay, or Fletcher. But Ricochet tried to make up for it by going twice as fast. But, I mean, did you say Okada told the crowd to be quiet, and they didn't have a problem following that instruction? And then he ran crisscross around the ring, hitting the ropes 4 times while Ricochet was just sitting there on his ass dumbfounded. And then he ran up behind him and slapped him in the head. This guy is supposed to be the greatest tournament wrestler in the world, and he's doing Boogie Woogie Jimmy Valiant spots from 1993.
They kept saying that. I mean, by the end of the night, especially, and then on Dynamite, the greatest tournament wrestler ever.
And who gives a shit?
And the fans have seen him in exactly 1 tournament. Where's Eddie Kingston? Didn't Eddie Kingston win this last year?
Well, yeah, but he hurt himself. Didn't he break his leg?
Did he? Or was that the time before that? Point is, he's been gone a long time. I forgot he was the Continental Champion.
Well, that's the thing is Okada, and then the last couple minutes, he'll turn it up a little bit, but he works like he's doing the walkthrough at 3:30 in the afternoon. And Ricochet is embracing being a heel to people, but now they've got a midget heel whose only appeal is doing flashy babyface shit for millions of dollars. And a lot of this was brutal. And then Okada says, "Oh, keep chopping me. Now let's do the fake forearms." Ricochet flipped some more, but he's a heel, so who gives a shit? Okada did the clumsy elbow off the top, gave the camera the finger. They flipped back and forth for a minute. Okada hit a drop kick, and Ricochet immediately reacted to that by picking Okada up and dropping him on his head and getting a 2 count. And then Ricochet hit a shooting star press off the top rope and got a 2 count. And then more kicks I'm reading my notes now. More kicks by both, and suddenly Okada jumped up and hit that shitty Rainmaker clothesline and beat him 1, 2, 3. So, again, leaping, flaming pile drivers can't stop you, but that one little short arm clothesline is deadly. The fuck? And then, do you want to get to the afterbirth or any comments on this match?
No, I mean, it was fine, I guess, for what it was. You kind of hit on the big thing. Okada coasts, and then he turns it up for the last few minutes, especially in the later match, but he did it here too. And I guess booking-wise, you had the tease of a potential Ricochet-Ospreay rematch, but instead you got Okada-Ospreay.
Well, you might have had a rematch, or you might have a deal where they both go in together and one with 6 points and the other with 3 points, and then they have a draw, which is like kissing your sister with your finger up her ass.
Is that what that's like?
See, that would be the setup to the next tournament. So then Okada left and Swerve came out and stood in the entranceway. And Ricochet told him, I'm going to win this. Or no, he Ricochet, and he told Ricochet that said he was going to win the tournament. But Swerve said if Ricochet blew it, he was going to embarrass him. And so now we're going to clean up your mess. And Nana came out with a fucking little red wagon full of toilet paper and gave it to the fans, and they threw it at Ricochet. But they had just previously done that at the Hammerstein in New York on their own, which is why I say it was at the. They're just trying. But anyway, so that and now Swerve has been reduced to coming out and giving the fans toilet paper. This supposed most dangerous man. It wasn't even a novel way to embarrass him. The fans had just done it. That's my point. All right, moving on. Correct? Or do you have any comments about the Tidy Bowl?
Moving on.
So then we get the Tijuana street fight for the women's title between Maria May and Thunder Rosa. Brian, you're aware of what the rules are of a Tijuana street fight women's division, aren't you?
Not specifically that stipulation. I know street fights. I have seen wrestlers from Tijuana. I don't remember if I've seen this match specifically before.
Well, it's no disqualification, weapons legal, falls count anywhere in the building, shitty booking. My New Year's resolution number 1 was not to watch girls' garbage matches. They cannot help themselves. They think this shit is good. And for the dwindling audience that they still maintain it might be, but after they've had the first match where they did everything physical that could possibly be done in a wrestling ring, then they follow it with a match that was not really as interesting. Then they have 2 girls come out and use chairs and trash cans and fight on the stage and spit tequila on each other and break open a piñata full of thumbtacks and roll around in the thumbtacks and use a logging chain. And finally, the finish of this girls' match is Maria May pile drives Thunder Rosa off the apron through a table to the floor. 1, 2, 3. And Tony Schiavone, and I quote, said, Thunder Rosa will have to be helped out after that. You think? My God, she was just run down by a Buddy bread truck. Well, somebody help her up and dust her off. She's going to need a hand to get back up on the curb. It's a fucking... Do you have any other observations about the girls' Tijuana street fight contest?
Now, no disrespect to either of the girls or women wrestlers, but...
I meant as much disrespect as possible, but you can do what you like.
But this was my break match. This was, I'm going to go outside and, do a couple things and then come back in.
Well, for a lot of people, this was their breaking point. But then they continued with the Dynamite Diamond Ring showdown between MJF and Adam Cole. MJF comes out, and this was a pay-per-view AEW crowd, so a crowd of their most faithful, and the response was a fraction of what it used to be because they have cut the throat of their biggest future star with the way that he's been presented and been backed into a corner and forced to have been presented. And then Adam Cole comes out, and except for the audience participation where they get to go boom and baby, I've seen people walking up to a bus stop attract more attention. It's just, they didn't want to see this, did they? Did the people want to see this match with any outcome?
The people wanted this feud to end with no ending several months back, almost a year ago when MJF first returned. They didn't want them to keep doing this, and now here it is, the end of the year. It looks like they finally end it. The other problem is people didn't want to see it. The people that did see it seemed to take more to MJF than Adam Cole. And I think a lot of that is specifically because of the visual.
Well, and it's still because that MJF had more goodwill because he was consistently good for so long until they started monkeying with him that it takes a while to lose that luster, although the process has begun. But with Adam Cole, they paired him with guys that they presented as jobbers and idiots. And he looks, not only visually, but looks like in the course of the story to be a complete imbecile because of the way this whole thing's been fucked up. And they just don't care. And then, when MJF threw Adam into the steps to where Adam could get his color, he gets in the ring and tells the crowd to shut the fuck up because the only ones making any noise were the ones cheering for him. And MJF, again, he's trying to make the fans care. And his matches put together always usually make sense, but no. At one point, Adam made a comeback, and there was kind of silence, indifference. And they kept trying, where Adam would hurt his ankle and MJF would clip it so they could extend this dramatic presentation that people didn't want to see the beginning of to begin with. And then Adam Cole pulled MJF into the fucking post and he got juice. And now they got a double juice match going on where nobody gives a shit. And anyway, finally, it just went on and on. MJF rolled out and slapped the stairs behind the referee's back and took a bump and blamed Taven and Bennett so the referee could kick them out of ringside because they were guarding the diamond ring. What sense does it make to have two guys in the match, his two friends guarding the fucking ring that is possessed by MJF? Yes, it's on the line, but you say, anyway. The referee kicked him out. MJF immediately goes and gets the ring and comes in and runs into a super kick. And Adam Cole gets the ring. And he swings, but MJF kicks him in the balls and hits him with the draping pile driver 1, 2, 3. So the babyface looks even worse when he takes the goddamn gimmick away from a fucking heel and the heel still beats him, doesn't he?
I mean, the booking's never good and never makes sense. At least MJF won, but the way everything happened and then the post-match.
But if I was Adam Cole, I'd say just knock me out with the fucking ring, Jesus Christ. Don't give me a goddamn gun and then I can't fucking shoot straight. If
I was Adam Cole, I'd say give me a protein shake.
Give me an inflatable skin diver's outfit. And just cover him somehow. But so MJF gets a chair and puts it on Adam's ankle. He's going to break the ankle, go for the stomp, and music plays, and here comes Roderick Strong. And he hits the ring, and MJF bails out and runs to the entranceway. But then Kyle O'Reilly comes out and grabs MJF and throws him back in the ring. And O'Reilly and Roderick Strong beat MJF up and hug Adam Cole and then hold the heel so that Adam Cole can punch him. And then Taven and Bennett come back in and the 5 baby faces celebrate because they all together were able to beat up the one heel.
Who won the match?
Who won the match?
Hopefully that's the end of all that, and hopefully that's the end of all that with the feud. I have to be very honest with you. We'll talk about Dynamite a little bit later. I'm over everything with the Undisputed anything. I don't want to see these guys anymore.
You're disputing it, is what you're saying?
I am. I'm saying there's a dispute, and I don't want to see any more of this kingdom, or this era, or whatever the fuck it is.
Or this time period. Just use our Use our time machine.
Oh.
Get us out of this. So we don't have to talk about the rest of the pay-per-view?
No, we have to. No, I didn't know what exactly we were getting out of, but we're back into that.
Well, now we're back into this. For the international title, another one, we had our friend Takeshita defending against Powerhouse Hobbs.
Can I say one thing and then I won't say anything else about this match? This is the most disappointing match to me as a fan on the show. I was hoping for more out of this.
Well, you silly boy. How dare you have hope? How dare you have it? Because AEW will strip the hope away from you. And it will give you cope instead of hope.
Oh, God.
So what has Hobbs done to deserve this? And what is the... He's gone forever because he's hurt. He comes back in a muddled situation where his manager had totally forgotten about him because he was so unimportant. So he becomes a babyface just by showing up on the other side. And wasn't his partner? Wasn't it Ricochet? Am I misremembering that?
What? Who was whose partner?
Remember when Hobbs showed up here a couple months ago again, and Callis had forgotten to re-sign him? Who was his partner in that match that brought him back as a babyface?
I have to double check. It may have been Ricochet.
I think it was Ricochet. So then you don't see him, Hobbs, I'm talking about. And then now he's going to do a job for this, again, for this bogus title. There's no thought to getting him over first before he does any of these things.
He returned in November as Ricochet's surprise partner against the Don Callis family.
Boom. Well, now he came out to get his ass kicked by... Is Takeshita still a member of the Don Callis family?
He is. Charter member.
Well, there you go. So at the bell, they stood and traded 13 fake forearms and 3 shoulder tackles before Takeshita took a bump. So way to get Hobbs over. I know, yes, our friend Take is a wonderful young athlete also, and we've said good things about him. But he shouldn't be standing toe-to-toe with Powerhouse Hobbs. This match shouldn't even be happening right now. Especially the same kind of matches everybody else has. They did the fake forearms. Then they rolled it out and fought on the floor while Ospreay stood and stared at him. And then Take got heat on Hobbs's bad knee, and again, they put him in the position. Remember when I was talking about how Braun Breaker was trying to sell a body part the other day? Was it his arm or whatever, or his ankle, whatever it was? But he was trying to sell like Ricky Morton, and it don't work. You can't have a beast say he has to sell the concept of the pounding and the blows or a big concussive effect, and you get a whatever. They got a Hobbs trying to learn to work. I'm sure somebody has pitched him. Oh, you learn to work by selling. Well, not like this. He's trying to sell like Ricky Morton on a bad knee. But look at him. He's a powerhouse. So this could have been put together better, but I don't know who's putting anything together. Takeshita can't lead, and Hobbs has been booked into an unwinnable situation where he never gets a chance to be dominant over any fucking body. And then Hobbs had to make a one-legged comeback, so a lot of that shit looked like shit. We could didn't have him sell his arm. Don't have him sell his leg. At least, you know, the fans were ready for Hobbs to win it. And then Hobbs went to the top to do something, allegedly, but Takeshita caught him, and they had an awkward struggle to pull off a superplex, and they lost their balance, and both of them fell off and crumbled to the apron, and they went right back to it like idiots, where they'd established, here's what we're going to do. Oh, but shit, we don't have the balance to do it. We fell off. Now we'll climb back up, and my opponent will be extra careful in helping me give him a superplex this time.
What should they have done?
Do anything else, bud. They both fell off on either side of the goddamn ropes, get on the floor, bing, bing, roll back in. Shoot, duck, fucking spine buster. Whatever the fuck. Who was going to take a shit? Was going to give him the superplex? Then let take a shit, duck something, and hit him with a goddamn flying Japanese dingbat. But don't go back and do the same thing you just fucked up, obviously. And then be more. And so it like Hobbs then just climbed right up. Here, superplex me, friend. Because they didn't want to fuck it up again. And then take a shit, came off the top with a senton, and then ran into a spine buster. And got a. So take a shit superplexed him, then came off the top with a senton on him, and then hit the ropes and ran toward him, and Hobbs got up and gave him a spine buster and got a 2 count. And then they both climbed up to the top again, not smoothly, and Hobbs power slammed him off the top and sold his knee. So, again, yes, it's a great idea. Hobbs is so strong, I bet I can power slam you off the top rope. It's not executing the move, it's the phoniness of getting there that fucking doesn't come into their mind. And then take a shit, hit him with a kick, an elbow, a knee, a front face lock, and a suplex, and beat him 1, 2, 3. After he was slammed off, as spine bustered and power slammed off the top rope, well, I'll just kick him and elbow him and knee him and front face lock him and suplex him and just beat him 1, 2, 3. I'll just do that. And after all that other shit, he just beats him flat in a horrible finish. Thanks for coming, Hobbs.
And it's almost like Wardlow. I mean, it's not an exact thing, but it's like they do something bad and they think they're going to repair it. You know, we'll talk about Dynamite when we talk about it. They give Powerhouse Hobbs a big handicap win. But this match didn't do it.
And one of the other people apparently was really handicapped.
Stop it. Stop. He was a smaller man. He was a smaller man, that's for sure.
No, he was a wise ass. He was a smart ass. We'll get to him, but I would have fucking, if it had been on OVW television, it's been a wrestling school, I would have gone around the announce desk, hit the ring, and pulled the guy out myself. He was so unprofessional.
My point is, this match didn't do anything to help Hobbs. And I think, like I said, it was disappointing. We finally get Hobbs versus Takeshita, and it just wasn't happening.
And it didn't happen, but it happened. And then the women's title was on the line with Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander. I will say this. At the top of it, I said I feel sorry for Statlander. We like her, we see something there, but oh, hell no. And I was rewarded in my first thought because this from bell to bell was close to 25 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, they typically give her at least 20 minutes for her big matches.
Well, finally, the heel beat the babyface clean in the middle of the ring with a fancy babyface roll-up. And I wrote, God, I hate these people. They wonder why the fans don't care about anybody because the babyfaces all get beat in the just... It was like the old Billy Jack line, not Billy Jack Haynes, but Billy Jack movie. He tells them I am going to take my right foot and kick you on the left side of your face. And then he does it. It's all the heels say, I'm going to beat you in such and such a way. And then they do. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I don't even know what I was going to say. Where's Camille?
Well, she escaped.
Have we ever gotten an explanation exactly what went down?
No, there has never been any...
I haven't asked anyone. I may have to because I'm.
Well, there's not been any public acknowledgement of how. I want to know from somebody, how did they bring her in there? What idea did they pitch her? How did it suddenly turn into whatever it turned into? And did she finally just say, you know what, let me the fuck out of here? And then because she's gone without any comment whatsoever.
Yeah, they have stopped saying her name. And when they had that recap video 2025 for Mercedes, there was not a clip of her.
So I'm sure there's an NDA involved on one side or another, but Maybe she had some kind of leverage. She only signed a short term. She only shined a short term contract.
I mean, that's always an option if she.
That's a spoonerism. One of the fans reminded me of.
Why would Tony do that? Why would Tony take someone like that and let her shine a suicide contract if he knows that NXT would want someone like that? I don't think there's any short-term contracts.
Well, remember what? Maybe both sides wanted her. Maybe she said, "Well, I like what you're saying to me, but I need to experience it firsthand." I don't know. But point is, she was in there. She was bungled badly, made to look like a complete idiot on television. But she was allowed to get the fuck out, and they're just acting like she wasn't there.
Here's another one with Statlander out there. Whatever happened to Stokely?
I forgot about him.
Right? He just disappeared. He was just on TV nonstop, and then he was off TV.
Well, he's probably like Don Fallis. He forgot about her. You know, a lot of these managers, they got so many people, they forget about some of them. He just forgot to keep going to the ring with her or whatever.
Well, while that was a short review, I do have to ask you something about it. Mercedes Moné, the outfits.
Yes.
The wigs.
Yes.
The jewelry. All the things happening. Is AEW paying for this? And if so, would she be allowed to resell it? Can she just start her own, Mercedes, not Salvation Army, but something where she could just sell things that were given to her?
Gently used merchandise, gently used ring-worn items. I bet she could sell some items she's worn to some segment of the population, but it all revolves around the dollar sign. Brian, she got the dollar sign on the outfit, got the dollar sign on the wig. She's Mercedes Moon, eh?
A CEO.
And she's all about making the money because she's a CEO of the MOUSE Club. And, you remember back in the dark days, Brian, before we established our modern form of currency, when Shopify, our friends over at Shopify, pulled us all out of the dark, we were using bags of shells and boxes of rocks as currency and coin of the realm until Shopify came around and just revolutionized everything, started making everybody all this money. You remember those old days.
That's not exactly how I would put it. I mean, Shopify.
Well, yeah, let's say you wanted a loaf of bread. You go down to the bread monger. You say, "I have a bag of shells for you, sir." And he'd break you off a piece of bread and hand it to you, however much the shells were worth. That's pretty much the way things happened until Shopify has revamped this whole system. And now, if you're on a platform like Shopify, because they're all over the world, they're just covering the world, well, then automatically, if somebody in Bolivia wants to buy your tchotchke and they've only got Bolivian rubles or potentially just a gallon of goat's milk, boom, Shopify will take that and turn it into real money and hand it right to you.
For your tchotchkes.
For your tchotchkes.
That's a word not used enough anymore.
Well, the tchotchke people use it all the time, but they need to get the awareness out. That's why you need Shopify, folks, because they can shell tchotchkes. They can sell tchotchkes.
Right by the seashore.
Right by the seashore and get you a bag of shells and turn it into... Point is, if you've got a product or service that you'd like to get out there and, let's face it, sometimes you can use code words for these services, wink, wink, nod, nod. And, you need to get it out there. You need a platform that will facilitate your selling. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. And, well, in that case, your conversion is automatically worth half again what it was before. They've converted it. And there's way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going with our friends at Shopify. So if you're selling those icicles to Eskimos, you got to upgrade your business right now and get the same checkout that the big boys use, the big major platforms, the industrial giants, the kings of commerce. They're all with Shopify. And you can get your deal for only $1 a month. It's a trial period, at which point they'll put you on trial. They'll cross-examine you. They'll make sure you're being honest with them, and then they'll continue the arrangement.
There will be no trial.
Well, it's a trial period. They can have a trial during that period, can't they?
It is a trial period. You will not be on trial with Shopify, at least during that period.
Well, so they'll guarantee you immunity for $1 a month, folks. You will not be able to be put on trial.
Well, just because of the timing. It would be a remarkable thing to move through the court so quickly that they would be able to get you to trial so fast.
Well, we're guaranteed speedy trials in this system, except if, you appoint the judges. But you can get a $1 a month trial period at Shopify.com/JCE. That's all lowercase, the J, the C, and the E. Shopify.com/JCE to upgrade your selling today. It's $1 a month trial period where they will show you how that they will make themselves indispensable in your life. You'll become addicted to them, and you won't be able to quit them. You won't be able to get away from them no matter what you do because they're going to be so good to you, and it's going to be such a rush. Shopify.com.
You can stop anytime you want.
/JCE.
Well, let's return.
Oh, do we have to go back, Daddy?
Back to the world's end. Let's go back to the end of the world.
Do we have to go back, Daddy?
Let's go back.
Good.
AEW's
Don't take me back.
World's End in Orlando. We're ready for the next match.
Well, it was the time for the time for the tournament final is what it was time for. The tournament for the Continental Classic. Wait a minute. Let me go back to Uncle Dave's thing. Does he say what exactly this goddamn deal was? The Continental Classic. Yeah, that's what it's the Continental title. It used to be the Classic when there was 3 belts involved, but now it's just the 1 belt because they split the other belts up. So the Continental Classic is only for the Continental title. Not to be confused with the Intercontinental title.
But it just so happens that the Continental Champion, Okada, is in the final. What if he wasn't?
Well, no. Because they said last year that the Continental Champion would only be champion for 1 year, and then the new champion would be the champion. So he's got to come back and prove himself. That's when they took the other 2 belts out of it and gave them to other people, because that would have muddied shit up really bad. Are you clear now?
I mean, as clear as I'm going to get about this.
Okay, it was Ospreay and Okada, otherwise known as more of these 2.
Come on, you know what? This was Okada's best match in AEW, I think.
Okay, again, to be the nicest guy in prison is not an honor that our children should aspire to. It's his best match out of a bunch of shitty matches. But again, regardless of whether they're MDs or not, move doers, here was the setup to this. Ospreay bled a bucket in the previous match and went 20-something minutes. He comes out, his head's all bandaged. He's still bloody. He's selling the previous match. So they start out the match by trading the forearms. And then Ospreay did a dive in the first 45 seconds. And then they fought on the floor for an extended period of time. And Okada gave Ospreay a couple of different DDTs on the floor, on his busted open head from the previous match. Within the first 2 or 3 minutes, I feel like I'm in hell being forced to watch the same thing over and over and over.
Do you think Tony told Ospreay about Ted DiBiase and Ric Flair with Dick Murdoch in '85 in Mid-South, and this is like their version of that? Like DiBiase coming out after getting busted open, and he's got the wrapping around his head, and
but how could they even have a video?
Ric Flair DDTs him on the floor a bunch of times.
Well, yeah, they even had a video guide of how to do it then, if that's what they were trying to do, and they didn't do it. But the Ospreay is supposed to be the one fighting from underneath, but then the injured guy is more like an Olympic gymnast suddenly, and Okada's bumping like he's made out of paper mache because I don't care whether everybody says, oh, he turned it up or not. He's still doing everything he can to protect every part of his body. And they went back out to the floor for a while, and I zoned out. And then they both started going 100 miles an hour, and Ospreay hit another Styles Clash and got a 2 count. So he can go through all this and still hit and Okada hits a clothesline and gets a 2 count. And then Ospreay was selling like death, and Okada was just forearming him lackadaisically. And I gotta be, they were 15 minutes in by this point. I zoned out. I fast forwarded another couple of minutes. And they went back and forth, and Okada clotheslined him 1, 2, 3. So just beat him flat. They put this broken down dumb shit over one of the 2 top baby faces they've got clean. I don't know why they do it at all, but they do everything in the goddamn world to each other. And then when they run out, the heel just beats the baby face with a half-ass move that was less dangerous than 14 other things they did. And then they shook hands with each other, with Ospreay, the babyface, on his knees in front of the Japanese prick that calls everybody bitch that just beat him. And he shook his hand while on his knees and bowed to him. He'd get a little head bow. Is it any wonder why they can't keep viewers or make stars? When this whipped fucking puppy, he came in for millions of dollars as the second coming, even the first coming. And now he's fucking shaking hands with this broken down fucking asshole that they put over everybody and bowing to him. Can you tell me the fucking idea behind this?
You know, Will Ospreay was the guy that had a chance to make their own breakout star, or try to, and he's just another one of the guys in AEW losing matches. He's lost a lot of matches if you really think about it. And, you know, it was the best match Okada's had in AEW. But I think the problem is the finish. And I think we first noticed it a few pay-per-views ago. The heels keep winning all the matches. And I know it's like an AEW fan base out there, post-babyface and heel. Or at least that's what Cody was telling us a few years ago.
Before he went back to where they were babyface and heels and made a fucking fortune.
We don't do anything with those boring tropes like baby faces and heels. We're past that. Well, look at what goes on here. And I think the fans get more and more deflated. You know, they're on max now. And the interesting thing is, and they were hyping it up too, 2019, you can go on there and see the start of AEW. It's like another company. Big buildings, a lot of fans, not just the amount of people, how loud they are, how active they are. It's another company. They burned out their fan base with the booking. And it's not going to get any better from here.
All right, well, explain this to me. As soon as they're finished with the match, Chris Daniels comes out on the stage and congratulates Okada. And he says, I can't present the belt because I'm no longer an executive vice president. And they said that again on Dynamite, but at the same time, they said, but he's still an official of did he quit? Did someone demote him? What is this, some sub-show story that's carried out on Rampage? Were
we told he was an EVP?
I don't think he was ever an EVP. I think he was Tony's fucking surrogate for a week there to come out and announce matches until he stopped doing that a week later. Well, anyway, he said, I can't present the belt. I'm no longer an EVP, but this man is. And they play music, and out comes the triumphant return of Twinkle Toes McFingerbang. He's back. Good old Kenny. And he took the belt to the ring and handed it to Okada and turned around and left. And it was 30 minutes from the entrances of this thing to the belt handoff.
So now we get the tease of Okada and Omega, which was a big match in New Japan.
How many years ago?
I mean, you know, it's funny. You don't really think about how long ago
was it before Okada's near-fatal fucking train wreck he apparently was in?
It was before that. It was before Kenny's issues. So you have to wonder what it would be like now. You have to wonder what kind of schedule Kenny's going to be able to work. And again, they bring him back for this, unannounced, comes out, presents the belt that he has nothing to do with, but except he's EVP, I guess. He's wrestling at the Tokyo Dome. His return, that's what he's an EVP again. So using his corporate duties, he's going to go wrestle for someone else.
But he shows
where I
up
think
on
Tony
this
Khan
show
is a
to
fool.
give somebody else a belt, and then he goes to Japan and wrestles in the... You would feel sorry for Tony if he hadn't had so many numerous episodes of proof that he's being taken like a goddamn sucker and drained for his blood by these guys.
Unless he buys New Japan. That's the only way it makes any sense. The amount of promotion all of a sudden he's giving New Japan. But we'll talk about Dynamite when we talk. About Dynamite.
Speaking of draining blood, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Tony Khan, who thinks he understands the wrestling business in Japan, trying to run a Japanese company.
I can absolutely imagine that. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I can imagine Tony Khan thinking, hey, you know what? I can run New Japan. How much is it? I'll buy it.
Well, then we come to, is this the last match? Thank fucking God. The World Title 4-Way match was the big main event of this fiasco, with Pockets versus Light Switch Jay White versus Hangnail Page versus the champion Dick the Boozer, the world's most dangerous plumber. And it writes itself. It started with a dive and a 4-way on the floor. And since all three of these numbnutses are mad at the plumber, they're all ganging up on him at the start. And when they had him out on the floor and up against the railing, they beat on him with some of the fakest looking shit I've ever seen in a wrestling match. It was like they didn't want to piss him off. They were just at one point not even trying to do Pockets as fake kicks. They was just all fake. And then Claudio came out and pulled Moxley over the rail and took him to the back of the arena, and the other three followed. And they all fought in the stands and in the arena. And Wheeler Useless got involved, and Marina Schaefer and security, but it's not as exciting as it sounded. They were all involved, but it was just the same bullshit where they fight out in the crowd kind of, and then they fight back.
The fan reaction is part of the story. They don't react to any of this.
They're standing there smirking at them. They won't even get out of the way when these giant sweaty men are fighting in their direction. They're like, they're not going to hurt me. And at 4 minutes in, Moxley and Pockets got in the ring, actually, and then they rolled back out. And then all three of them powerbombed Moxley through the announce desk. But then Hangnail double-crossed the other three, and they had a 3-way on the floor while Moxley sold the desk, but nobody would get in the ring. And then finally, in about 10 minutes, Dick the Boozer popped back up and beat up the mascot. And somewhere, I guess, on the desk, Moxley had busted the back of his head open. And then Moxley and Page did fake forearms and bad indie spots. And then they went into the part where everybody did everything over and over. And Moxley was actually selling for the emaciated little fucking delinquent. I'm sorry, I should be more specific. The mascot. And then Page pulled out one referee so he couldn't count. They got a second referee in there, but Useless, who's not even in the match, came in and glommed him and beat him up. And then Marina Schaefer got in, but White grabbed her without knowing it was her and gave her his finish, which that actually got a pop. And then Useless hit the knee on White, and Moxley gave White his double arm, and Claudio rolled the first referee in, and he did a flat, slow 3 count, and Moxley won again. And people are like, hey. And then the heels went to start beating up Jay White. But then FTR's music played. And they walked out to the ring, and then the lights went out, and Edge's music played. And he came out looking like handsome Jimmy Valiant does today. And then FTR slid in and had a sloppy fight with Claudio and Wheeler and beat them up. And then Edge and the Boozer faced off. And Edge speared him and broke off the chair support and cross-faced him with it in his mouth, because remember, they did that in the WWE when Edge was a star. And then Claudio pulled him out, and Edge started talking into a dead microphone and realized it. So it asked him if they'd give him another. They gave him another. And he told Moxley, "You're all mine, and we're taking it all." What are you taking, and what do you want?
Kept calling him kid, too.
And then Tony Schiavone, when he said, "You're all mine, we're taking it all," Tony said, "I love AEW." Yeah, there you go.
There's a lot to break down there. Tony Schiavone sucks more than anything on commentary, because all he does now is just, "Wow, what a great roster we have." He said that the other night. I'm like, will you shut the fuck up? And then here, of course, he loves AEW because the Cope returned with, not even the Cope, just Cope. Adam Copeland, the Edge, returned with FTR, who are deader right now than they've been since they first came in. With that bad music, driving a truck. No one wants to see the Moxley stuff to begin with. This isn't promising. And then it was just classic AEW. He gets the mic, he's all fired up, and it doesn't work, and you see his face, and you feel bad for him. He's like, "Motherfucker, I'm ready."
It wasn't even feeding the broadcast, but not the PA. It was just dead.
It was feeding nothing. It was coming out of nowhere. They gave him a dead microphone. The babyface hits the ring, and they give him a dead microphone.
Remember, we talked the other day about, great entrances where as soon as he hit the ring, somebody fucked and shit the bed. Yeah, this wasn't as bad as that.
But him on the mic here talking to Moxley, I don't think that was working. Based on everything Moxley's been doing, the attempted murders and everything. "Hey, kid, I'm better than you are, kid."
But here's the problem is, yes, they made the point that I think Edge said something to the effect of, "I started doing this when you were still growing pubes or whatever." But look at how old Moxley looks. How old must Edge be? And look at how old Edge is looking now. So I don't know if kid is the thing I'd be calling the fucking 40-year-old guy that looks 50.
Well, that was AEW World's End, an exciting end. How many matches did the heels win? The main event, Moxley. Okada. Moné, that's 3 in a row.
Well, now wait a minute.
MJF. Hold on. Is it every match? Mariah May?
No,
Ospreay won the opener. That's right.
Yeah.
The match that actually had the fans.
And Okada beat Ricochet, but you can't really tell who the heel
Ricochet, I don't think Ricochet was all the way heel as the match started. I think after the match, it was firmly established he is now the heel.
When the fans threw shit on him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the heels won every match except for the opener, which coincidentally enough was the only match the fans were into from bell to bell.
Well, it's your show, kid.
Well, that was World's End, Grandpa.
See, I can call you kid because I'm older than everybody.
Kid. I mean, I don't know. Of all the things to call Moxley there, it just doesn't. Let me tell you something, asshole. Like anything else.